What is Dapitan according to the plan of God? Now, if we will talk about Dapitan City, we will start at the time when Jacob was born, because the exact time begins in his life. Jacob was born in -73. Before he entered Egypt, he lived 130 years in Israel, and that was in -73 to +57. This was at the time of Joseph, when he became a governor of Egypt. 17 years after Jacob arrived in Egypt, he died. The family of Jacob lived in Egypt within 430 years. So it was at the time of Moses. In short, they got out of Egypt in the year 487. From this year, we will count 480 years, and that was the time when Solomon constructed the temple. In other words, Solomon began the construction in 967. This was the 4th year when Solomon reigned the kingdom. So Solomon became a king in 963. Now Solomon had 37 years left to finish the year +1000. Since Solomon reigned the kingdom in 40 years, so he had 3 years, which was already in -1000 years. If we will subtract the -3 years from -1000 years, the answer is -997. This number of years will be subtracted from 2520 years, which is the appointed time of God. We will have the answer of 1523 years, or 1523 in short. This was the time when God bestowed the kingdom to a nation which became a Christian nation. In this regard, God sent a priest on March 16, 1521, in order to Christianize the Filipino, for the kingdom of God should be given to a nation in which Christianity abided. Now we cannot profoundly deny that the Philippines is the abode of the Christian people who are struggling for salvation, whether in group or individual. We learned very well that the Philippines became a Christian country on April 14, 1521, 2 years before God gave the kingdom in 1523. It is very clear to mention the kingdom of God, because the year 1523 is the repetition of history of the real and true kingdom of God at the time of King Solomon during his last hour in -997. The biblical history prevails that the creation of Adam was in the island surrounded by 2 branches of twin rivers of Tigris and Euphrates. This is precisely called Mesopotamia, from the Greek language Mesopo, which means an island between the 2 branches of rivers. In a vivid narration, after the creation of Adam, God rested in the 7th day. Since 1 day of God is equal to 1,000 years of man, so Adam should be in the Garden of Eden and lived there the same time as God rested. But before the year ended, Adam committed sin. In the year 821, Adam committed sin. So God completely erased Mesopotamia after the 20th generation at the time of Abraham. So the plan of God was carried by Abraham in Canaan. Many years passed by that Jesus was born in Bethlehem. His human flesh was chosen so that Christ, the true God, could humanly speak to the people for the preparation of his third week in this world. Many Jews did not believe him, so he took away the kingdom of God and gave it to a nation which became Christian in 1523. From this time, 40 years should be counted off. In Adam, who could give the life of the people, should appear. It was in 1563 when Adam came to the Philippines in the person of Dato Pagbuaya. Since Adam lived in Mesopotamia, which was an island surrounded by two branches of rivers, so with the new Mesopotamia, which is also surrounded by two branches of rivers called Polo River and Liburan River. According to the plan of God, the place should be discovered 40 years after the repetition of the history of King Solomon. The history repeated in 1523. 40 years after, Dato Pagbuaya reached Dapitan in 1563. Counting from it the remaining 390 years, the answer is 1953, when Dato Pagbuaya spiritually returned in Dapitan. 10 years after, the town of Dapitan became a city under the penmanship of President Diosdado Macapagal through a Republic Act number 3811 on June 22, 1963. Another 10 years that followed, Dapitan City became a shrine city under the signature of President Ferdinand Marcos through a presidential decree number 105 on January 24, 1973. In this juncture, Dapitan City, which is now Dapitan Shrine City, is the new Mesopotamia, where the second Adam, who personified Dato Pagbuaya in 1563, welcome back to Dapitan City.